This is the introduction to section 7.5, part 1. Okay, in 7.5, we're going to use the side splitter theorem and the triangle angle bisector theorem. Now, in the first part, we're going to talk about the side splitter theorem and the corollary to the side splitter theorem. And then in part 2, we'll talk about the triangle angle bisector theorem. So, to start here, when two or more parallel lines intersect other lines, proportional segments are formed. Again, that word proportional. In other words, if I have two or more parallel lines, I can set up proportions of certain sides. Okay? So let's talk about the side splitter theorem. It says if a line is parallel to one side of a triangle and intersects the other two sides, then it divides those sides proportionally. So, in this case, RS is parallel to XY, and we've got a triangle with those two parallel lines in them. In other words, the lines that are proportional, as you look here at these, this line XR, okay, is proportional to RQ, XOR over RQ equals S or YS over SQ. So in other words, part over part equals the bottom part over the top part. So in other words, as we look at this, again, you can go top over bottom equals top over bottom, or bottom over top equals bottom over top, but it has to be the same either way. Okay, so that's what you're going to look at there. It has to be the same either way. If you go bottom over top, let's say this is bottom left, and this is top left, this is top right, and bottom right, you would go bottom left over top left equals bottom right over top right. Okay, to set those types of proportions up. So, using now the side splitter theorem, what is the value of the diagram at the right? Okay, so again, if I go and use the side splitter theorem, I go bottom left. I've got two lines that are parallel. Bottom left, which is x plus 1, over top left, which is 12, equals bottom right, which is x over top right, which is 9. I would cross multiply. I get 12 times x equals 9 times the quantity x plus 1. I'd have to distribute the 9. So 12x equals 9x and plus 9. Again, I distribute the 9 there and there. Subtract 9x, and this is now 3x equals 9. And then divide by 3, and x equals 3. Okay, so the value of x is 3. And you can figure out those sides by plugging it in if they ask you. Okay, so I want you to hit pause here and do this one on the right and see if what you come up with, and then go through it and see if you get the correct answer. Okay, now that we're back and you've paused this, let's take a look here at this problem. Again, if I go bottom left, which happens to be a plus 4, over top left, which is a, equals bottom right, which is 18, over top right, which is 12. Now, some of you would ask, could I go a over a plus 4 equals 12 over 18? Absolutely, you're going to get the same thing. Okay? But you got to make sure your parts match up. So now I cross multiply. I have 8a equals 12 times the quantity a plus 4. Again, I have to distribute the 12. So 8a equals 12a plus 48. Okay? Now, if I subtract a 12a, I'm going to get negative 4a equals 48. Okay, so it's not 8a, it's 18a, which now is going to, if I erase this here, if I subtract 12a, this is 6a equals 48. And if I divide by 6, a is going to equal 4. Okay? So again, using the side splitter theorem, you can make the sides proportional and find a variable. Okay, the corollary to the side splitter theorem, very similar, is that if I have three lines parallel, okay, and they intersect two transversals, then the segments intercepted on the transversals are proportional. Very similar. It's more or less the same exact thing. I say AB over BC equals WX over XY. Again, same concept, except for now it's not necessarily in a triangle. So as you look here, it says here, 3 campsites are shown in the diagram. What is the length of site A along the river? So, I want to know how much that is. Okay? I want to know how much that is. Now, as you look at the other plots, you'll notice you don't have this for site C. So, this essentially eliminates using site C. Okay? So, if I go with what I don't know, let's make that x. To set up my proportion, I go x over 9. So I went top left over bottom left is going to equal top right, which is 8, over bottom right, which is 7.2. Okay? So now when I cross multiply, I get 7.2x equals 72. And if I divide by 7.2, in this case, x is going to equal 10. So in this case, site A along the river is 10 yards. Okay? All right, so we talked about the side splitter theorem. We talked about the corollary to the side splitter theorem and how it makes the sides proportional. This concludes section 7.5, part 1. Don't forget to complete your WSQ.